As my wife stepped out of the shower, I asked how long this had been going on. She froze. The credit card statements led me to the truth. Then I found the basement box. That's when I realized the woman I'd loved for 39 years had been playing a game I didn't even know existed. And she wasn't playing alone. My name is Gregory Lancaster. I'm 62 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I built Lancaster Travel Services from nothing over 30 years ago, back when people still walked into offices to book their vacations instead of clicking buttons on their phones. The business wasn't huge, but it was mine. Steady income, good reputation in our Connecticut community, enough to put 3 kids through college and own our home free and clear. Monica and I married young, both of us 23 and full of dreams. She worked as a coordinator for alumni relations at Bridgeport University, connecting graduates with mentoring programs and fundraising events. 39 years together. 3 kids. Connor, 32, working as an architect in Boston. Stephanie, 28, teaching high school English right here in town. And Ethan, 20, studying business at State College. We had what everyone said was a solid marriage. Sunday dinners with whoever could make it. Annual trips to Cape Cod. The kind of comfortable partnership you build when you've weathered decades together. But that Tuesday, something felt off. I'd come home early from the office, a rare luxury when you run your own business. The house was quiet. Monica's car sat in the driveway, which surprised me since she usually worked until 5. I found her in our home office, staring at her computer screen with an intensity that made me pause in the doorway. "Hey, honey," I said. "Didn't expect you home this early." She actually jumped, and quickly minimized whatever she'd been looking at. Her hand trembled slightly as she turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I couldn't quite identify. Fear? Guilt? "Greg." Her voice came out higher than normal. "I had a migraine, so I left work early, just catching up on some emails." The explanation made sense. Monica had suffered from migraines for years, but something in her posture, the way she angled her body between me and the computer screen, set off alarm bells I didn't want to hear. That's when I noticed the envelope on her desk. Hartford Medical Center, not our usual doctor's office. "What's that?" I asked, pointing to it. "Oh, nothing. Just some routine tests." She snatched it up quickly, tucking it into her purse. "You know how they are about checkups after 55. I nodded, accepting the explanation because I wanted to believe it. Because after 39 years, you trust your wife. You don't interrogate her about medical bills or computer screens or coming home early. But that night, lying in bed while Monica slept beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The comfortable foundation of our marriage suddenly felt less solid, like discovering termites in the walls of a house you thought was built to last forever. I told myself I was being paranoid. Marriages go through phases. Maybe she was stressed about work. Maybe I was projecting my own midlife anxieties onto innocent situations. I had no idea then that the termites had been eating away at our foundation for months. That by the time I noticed that medical bill, my wife had already stolen our future and was planning her exit with another man. If I'd known what I was about to discover, I might have stayed in that comfortable ignorance a little longer. But ignorance, I learned, isn't bliss. It's just another word for being played for a fool. The discovery came 2 weeks later, not through detective work, but through simple accident. I was looking for our homeowner's insurance documents to update our coverage, and I found something that made my blood run cold. Our house, the 3-bedroom colonial we'd owned free and clear for 15 years, had a second mortgage on it. $190,000, taken out 7 months ago. Monica's signature on every page. I sat in my home office, staring at those documents spread across my desk like evidence of a crime. My hands shook as I flipped through page after page of legalese, all of it adding up to the same devastating conclusion. My wife had mortgaged our home without telling me. Our sanctuary, the place we'd raised our children, the asset we'd worked 3 decades to own outright, suddenly carried debt we couldn't afford. The worst part wasn't even the mortgage itself. It was the application. Under purpose of loan, someone had typed home renovations and business investment. We hadn't renovated anything. And what business? I pulled up our bank statements on the computer, my financial training from years of running a business kicking in despite the panic clawing in my chest. The money had come into our joint account in one lump sum last March, then disappeared in chunks over the following months. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Cash withdrawals of $5,000 and $10,000 at a time. Then I checked something I should have looked at months ago, our retirement accounts. The Fidelity statement loaded slowly, each second an eternity. When the numbers finally appeared, I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My 401k, the nest egg I'd been building since I was 30 years old, showed a balance of $42,000. It should have been over $200,000. I clicked through to the transaction history with numb fingers. Monica had power of attorney on the account, something we'd set up years ago for estate planning purposes. In case something happened to me, she'd be able to access our funds. She'd been systematically draining it since February. $15,000 here, $20,000 there. The statements I should have been reviewing every quarter sat unopened in a desk drawer because I trusted her to manage our finances together like we always had. Oh God, I whispered to the empty office. Monica, what have you done? I did the math in my head, something I could do quickly after decades in business. The mortgage, the retirement fund, our savings account that I now checked and found nearly empty. My wife had stolen or borrowed against roughly $350,000 of our money in 7 months. We were supposed to retire in 3 years. I've been planning to sell the business, spend our golden years traveling, being grandparents if the kids gave us that gift. Now we were drowning in debt at 62 years old, with a mortgage payment we couldn't afford and retirement funds that wouldn't last 5 years. The front door opened downstairs. Monica's voice called out cheerfully, "Greg, I'm home." I sat frozen at my desk, the documents scattered around me like shrapnel. Part of me wanted to run downstairs and demand answers immediately. But another part, the part that had loved this woman for 39 years, couldn't move. Couldn't face what these numbers meant. Because money could be stolen by a stranger. But this was betrayal on a level I couldn't comprehend. This was the woman I'd built a life with systematically destroying our future, and I had no idea why. Greg. Her footsteps on the stairs. You up there? I managed to find my voice. Yeah, in the office. She appeared in the doorway, still in her work clothes, smiling that same smile I'd loved since we were kids. And I realized I was looking at a stranger wearing my wife's face. Everything okay? She asked. You look pale. I gestured at the documents spread across my desk. I found a second mortgage. The smile vanished. For just a moment, naked fear crossed her face before she masked it with confusion. Oh, that. I was going to tell you. When? My voice came out flat, emotionless. Before or after you bankrupted us? Monica tried deflecting for another hour, spinning excuses about investments and opportunities, but I wasn't buying any of it. I'd spent 30 years analyzing travel industry finances. I knew creative accounting when I saw it, and this was theft dressed up in corporate language. Enough, I finally said, my voice harder than I'd ever used with her. I want the truth. All of it. Right now. She sat on the edge of our bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I met someone. 3 words that rewrote 39 years of history. Who? The question came out like gravel. Keith Hammond. He works in fundraising at the university. We started collaborating on alumni events about 8 months ago. 8 months. The timeline clicked into place. The second mortgage, the retirement withdrawals, her sudden interest in working late. And the money? I asked, though part of me already knew. He had an opportunity. A startup connecting university alumni with young entrepreneurs. He needed seed capital. She wouldn't meet my eyes. He said we'd triple our investment within 2 years. I laughed, a bitter sound that didn't feel like it came from me. Let me guess. The business never existed. Her silence was answer enough. I needed air. I needed space to think without looking at her face. I walked out of her bedroom, down the stairs, and kept going right out the front door. My neighbor Howard Barnes sat on his porch across the street, and something about the old man's calm presence drew me over. Evening, Greg, Howard said, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. At 73, Howard had the weathered look of someone who'd seen it all. I dropped into the chair, my legs suddenly unsteady. Howie, can I ask you something? Fire away. Did you know? The question came out rougher than I intended. About Monica and whoever she's been seeing? Howard was quiet for a long moment, rocking slowly in his chair. I saw her having lunch at Giovanni's last month with a younger fellow. They weren't talking about university business, if you catch my meaning. The confirmation hurt worse than the discovery. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Howard's voice was gentle. Man's got to see some things for himself, or he'll spend his life wondering if the messenger was lying. I told him about the money then, all of it spilling out. The mortgage, the retirement accounts, the $350,000 gone. Howard listened without interrupting, then said something that surprised me. This isn't the first time. What? 10 years back, maybe 11. I saw Monica with someone at the Riverside Inn. Different fellow than this one. I thought about telling you then, but I was a coward. He met my eyes. I'm sorry for that, Greg. I've regretted it ever since. The ground shifted beneath me again. She's done this before. Can't say for certain it was an affair. But it wasn't a business lunch, I'll tell you that much. I sat there as night fell around us, processing the idea that my entire marriage might have been a lie. Not just the last 8 months, but years of it. When I finally went back inside, Monica was in the shower. I could hear the water running upstairs. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling like walking to my own execution. I pushed open the bathroom door. Steam filled the room. Through the frosted glass of the shower door, I could see her silhouette. "Monica," I said, my voice cutting through the sound of running water. The water shut off immediately. She stepped out, reaching for a towel, freezing when she saw my face. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, each word deliberate. "Not just this affair. All of it. Because Howard saw you with someone else 10 years ago." She stood there dripping. The towel clutched her chest, her face going pale. "Greg, I can explain." "How long?" I repeated, my voice rising. "How many times have you done this to me? How many men have there been while I was working 60-hour weeks to build our future?" "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is. Make me understand how the woman I've loved for 39 years has been living a double life." I called a family meeting for Sunday afternoon. Connor drove down from Boston. Stephanie came over from her apartment across town. Ethan drove home from college. They filled our living room with nervous energy, sensing something was seriously wrong, but not knowing what. Monica sat on one end of the couch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I stood by the fireplace, the documents I printed out clutched in my hand. "Dad, what's going on?" Connor asked. At 32, he looked like a younger version of me. Same dark hair graying at the temples, same serious expression. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Your mother has been having an affair for the past 8 months. She's also stolen roughly $350,000 from our retirement and mortgaged our house to give money to her lover." The room went dead silent. Then Stephanie stood up, her face pale. "Mom," her voice shook. "Tell me he's lying." Monica's tears started then. "It's more complicated than your father is making it sound." "Complicated?" Stephanie's voice rose. "You cheated on Dad and stole our future? That's not complicated, Mom. That's evil. Don't speak to your mother that way." Monica started, but Connor cut her off. "She can speak however she wants. We all can." He turned to me. "What are you going to do, Dad?" "I've already consulted a divorce attorney. I'm filing papers this week." Ethan, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "Dad, do you have to? Can't you guys work this out?" I looked at my youngest son, 20 years old and still believing marriage could survive anything. "Son, she didn't just cheat. She stole our retirement, mortgaged our home, and apparently, this isn't even the first time she's had an affair. There's nothing left to work out." "There was someone else before?" Stephanie asked, turning to her mother with horror. Monica's silence was answer enough. Stephanie grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. "I can't be here. I can't look at you right now." She headed for the door, and that's when Monica finally found her voice. "Steph, please. Let me explain." "Explain what?" Stephanie turned back, and I saw tears streaming down her face. "I'm getting married in 3 months, Mom. I've been planning my wedding, picking out flowers, trying to create the perfect day based on what you and Dad taught me about marriage. And now I find out it was all a lie." "Your wedding," Monica started, "is canceled," Stephanie said flatly. "I called James yesterday and told him I can't marry him. Because if you and Dad can't make it work after 39 years, what chance do we have?" The words hit me like a physical blow. My daughter was ending her engagement because her mother had destroyed her faith in marriage. "Stephanie, no," I said, moving toward her. "Don't let your mother's choices destroy your happiness." "It's too late, Dad. I already ended it." She wiped her eyes roughly. "I'll be at Rachel's if anyone needs me." Don't call unless it's an emergency. She left, the door closing behind her with terrible finality. Connor stood up next. I need to get back to Boston. I've got meetings tomorrow. He paused at the door. Mom, I love you, but what you've done is unforgivable. After Connor left, it was just me, Monica, and Ethan. My youngest son sat on the couch, staring at his hands. Ethan, I said gently, I'm going back to school. He stood up, not looking at either of us. I can't deal with this right now. Ethan didn't come home that night, or the next. When he finally answered my calls 3 days later, his voice sounded hollow, lifeless in a way that terrified me. Son, where are you? I asked, gripping the phone tighter. Still at school. In my dorm. He paused. Dad, I need to tell you something. The tone in his voice made my stomach drop. What is it? I haven't been going to classes. Since you told us about Mom, I can't focus. Can't make myself care about economics lectures when our family's falling apart. Ethan, no. You can't let this destroy your education. It's too late. His voice broke. I got an email from the registrar's office yesterday. I'm on academic probation. If I don't bring my grades up this semester, I lose my scholarship. The scholarship that covered $18,000 a year. The scholarship we'd celebrated when he earned it, proud that our youngest son wouldn't graduate with crushing debt. How bad is it? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. I've missed 2 weeks of classes. Failed my midterms in 3 courses. Dad, even if I ace everything from here on out, I'm probably going to lose it. I closed my eyes, fighting back rage at Monica. This was her doing. Our son's future, damaged because she couldn't keep her vows or her hands off her money. Come home this weekend, I said. We'll figure this out together. What's there to figure out? Without the scholarship, I can't afford to stay. You said Mom took everything. I'll find a way. Maybe I can take out a loan, or... Dad, you're 62. You can't take on more debt because Mom decided to fund her affair. His laugh was bitter, wrong coming from my usually optimistic son. I'm dropping out. Already talked to my advisor about taking a leave of absence. Ethan, please. Don't make any permanent decisions right now. It's already done, Dad. I'm coming home next week to clear out my dorm. After he hung up, I sat in my office staring at the wall, adding up the casualties of Monica's betrayal. Stephanie's broken engagement. Connor's shattered respect for his mother. And now Ethan's education. The future we'd promised him, destroyed. I called my neighbor Howard that evening. The old man came over with a bottle of bourbon, and we sat on my back deck as the sun set. Ethan's dropping out of college, I told him. Lost his scholarship because he's too depressed to function. Howard poured us each 2 fingers of bourbon. That's a damn shame. Boy's got a good head on his shoulders. Had a good head. Now he's giving up on his future because his mother couldn't keep it in her pants or her hands out of her bank accounts. We drank in silence for a while. Then Howard said something that surprised me. You know, my Eleanor, she came back. What? After our divorce. 5 years later, she came back. He stared at his glass, his weathered face sad. The insurance salesman left her for someone younger. She got sick, cancer, and came to me asking for another chance. Said she'd made the biggest mistake of her life leaving me. What did you do? Told her no. He met my eyes. Told her I'd moved on, that she'd burned that bridge. She died 2 years later, alone in a hospice in Syracuse. And Greg, I've regretted that decision every single day for the last 25 years. You think I should take Monica back? I couldn't keep the disbelief out of my voice. I think pain makes us do stupid things. Makes us choose pride over compassion, revenge over mercy. He refilled our glasses. I'm not saying what Monica did was right, but I'm saying that 30 years from now, you'll have to live with whatever choice you make. Make sure it's one you can bear. I thought about his words long after he left. Thought about Monica upstairs in our guest room, about 39 years of marriage, about our children's shattered lives. But I also thought about the $350,000 she'd stolen, the lies that went back at least 10 years, the systematic destruction of everything we built. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt, and I wasn't sure I wanted to try. I met with my attorney, Robert Cross, on Thursday morning at his office in downtown Bridgeport. The man was in his late 50s, with the sharp eyes of someone who'd seen every variation of human betrayal. Mr. Lancaster, he said, shaking my hand. I've reviewed the documents you sent. This is quite a situation. That's one word for it, I said, sitting across from his desk. He pulled out a legal pad covered in notes. The second mortgage, is particularly problematic. Connecticut is an equitable distribution state, which means marital property gets divided fairly, not necessarily 50-50. But your wife taking out that mortgage without your knowledge and using the fund for an extramarital affair gives us significant leverage. What about the retirement accounts? Those are trickier. She had legal authority to access them as your power of attorney. But the fact that she drained them for personal use during an affair, that's financial infidelity. We can argue she breached her fiduciary duty to the marriage. I leaned forward. Robert, I don't want fair division. I want protection. She's already proven she'll destroy our finances. What's to stop her from taking out more loans, running up credit cards, bankrupting us completely before the divorce is final? He nodded, making notes. We'll file for an immediate temporary restraining order, freezing all marital assets. She won't be able to access bank accounts, take out new loans, or make major purchases without court approval. I'll also recommend we petition for immediate separation of finances. How long will all this take? To get the TRO? We can file today and have a hearing by Monday. The divorce itself, if she contests it, could take 6 to 18 months. She'll contest it. She needs the money. Then we prepare for war. He met my eyes. Mr. Lancaster, I need to ask you something. There's a document here, a draft of a new will your wife apparently prepared 3 months ago. Do you know anything about it? I stared at him. What will? He slid a paper across the desk. I read through it, my stomach turning with each line. Monica had drafted a will naming herself as sole beneficiary of everything. Our house, my business, my life insurance. Our children weren't mentioned anywhere in the document. She was planning to cut out our kids. My voice came out strangled. It appears so. The document isn't signed or notarized, so it's not legally valid. But it shows intent. She was planning for your death, Mr. Lancaster, and making sure everything went to her, not your children. I thought about the fake medical diagnosis Monica had told Keith about, how she claimed I was dying. She'd been setting the stage to inherit everything, probably planning to disappear with her lover once I was out of the picture. That's not just betrayal, I said slowly. That's premeditation. It's evidence of financial abuse and fraud. Combined with the affair and the stolen retirement funds, we have a very strong case. Robert leaned back in his chair. But I have to warn you, this kind of case gets ugly. Your wife will fight back. She'll claim you were controlling, that she was unhappy, that she deserves compensation for years of sacrifice. Are you prepared for that? After what she's done to our family? After she destroyed Ethan's education and Stephanie's engagement? I met his eyes. I'm prepared for whatever it takes. The temporary restraining order came through on Monday morning. Monica's access to our accounts was frozen. She couldn't touch what little money remained, couldn't take out new loans, couldn't sign any legal documents without court approval. I felt a grim satisfaction when Robert called with the news. That satisfaction lasted exactly 4 hours. I was at the office, trying to focus on booking a cruise package for the Hendersons, when Monica burst through the door. Her face was flushed, her eyes wild in a way I'd never seen before. Greg, we need to talk. Now. I excused myself from the Hendersons and led her into my private office, closing the door. What's wrong? Keith is threatening me. Her voice shook. He says if I don't give him $50,000 by Friday, he's going to tell everyone at the university about our affair. He'll ruin my reputation, destroy my career. I stared at her, processing this new development. Let me get this straight. The man you gave $350,000 to is now demanding more money. He says the business didn't work out. He needs capital to restart it. She grabbed my arm, desperate. Greg, if this gets out at work, I'll lose everything. The Alumni Association, they're very conservative. They'll fire me. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with him. Please. Tears streamed down her face. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm begging you. He's not going to stop. This morning he showed up at my office. He followed me to my car at lunch. He sent me 37 text messages in the last hour. She pulled out her phone, showing me the messages, each one more threatening than the last. Pay me what you owe me. You think you could just walk away? I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of woman you really are. Your husband, your kids, your boss. Everyone will know. I read through them, my jaw tightening. Keith Hammond was showing his true colors now that the money had dried up. He wasn't some misunderstood romantic figure. He was a predator who'd found an easy mark. What do you want me to do about it? I asked. The restraining order. It froze everything. I can't access any money to pay him. She looked at me with desperate hope. But you could. You could pay him. Make this go away. I laughed, a harsh sound. You want me to give $50,000 to your lover to protect your reputation? To protect our family? Greg, if this becomes public, it'll destroy Stephanie and Ethan even more than they already are. The whole town will know. Do you want that? She had a point, much as I hated to admit it. Our small Connecticut community thrived on gossip. This scandal would follow our children for years. Let me think about it, I said. That evening, I showed Howard the text messages. The old man read through them, his face darkening. This is extortion, he said flatly. This fellow's breaking the law. I know, but if I don't pay, he'll make good on his threats. Monica will lose her job, and our kids will suffer more than they already have. Howard set down his glass. Greg, you pay this man once, he'll be back for more. Men like that, they're parasites. They don't stop bleeding you dry until there's nothing left. So what do? You stand your ground. You tell Monica to file a police report for harassment and extortion. You get a restraining order against this Keith fellow, and you let the chips fall where they may. He met my eyes. Sometimes the high road means watching other people face the consequences of their choices. I thought about it all night. The next morning, I made my decision. I called Monica and told her to meet me at the police station. What? Why? She asked. Because Keith Hammond is committing a crime, and we're going to report it. You're going to file for a restraining order, and you're going to tell the police everything. Greg, no. If I do that, it'll all come out anyway. Then it comes out. But we're not paying blackmail, Monica. We've already lost $350,000 to this man. He doesn't get another dime. She tried to argue, but I held firm. We met at the Bridgeport Police Department that afternoon. Monica, pale and shaking, told Detective Sarah Reeves everything. The affair, the money, the threats. Detective Reeves listened carefully, taking notes. Mrs. Lancaster, this is clearly a case of extortion and harassment. We'll issue a restraining order immediately and open an investigation into Mr. Hammond. What happens now? Monica asked. Now you document every contact he makes, every text, every phone call, every time he shows up at your workplace. And if he violates the restraining order, he goes to jail. As we left the police station, Monica turned to me. Thank you for standing by me through this. I'm not standing by you, I said quietly. I'm protecting our children from further damage. Don't confuse the two. Keith Hammond didn't take the restraining order well. The next day, he showed up at Monica's office despite the court order. Campus security escorted him off the property, and Monica called the police. They arrested him for violation of the restraining order, held him for 12 hours, then released him on bail. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Keith started calling the house at all hours. 3 in the morning, 5, 7 times before breakfast. I disconnected the landline. He found Connor's number and started calling him. Then Stephanie. Then somehow got Ethan's cell number. Dad, who is this guy? Connor demanded when he called me after midnight. He just left me a voicemail saying Mom destroyed his life, and we should know what kind of woman she really is. He's Mom's affair partner. He's being dealt with, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Dealt with? He's harassing our whole family. Stephanie called the next day, crying. Dad, that Keith person showed up at my school. He waited in the parking lot until I came out to my car. He didn't touch me or anything, but he said Mom owes him money, and if she doesn't pay, he's going to make all of us sorry. That's when my protective instincts kicked into overdrive. One thing to threaten Monica, entirely another to go after my daughter. I called Detective Reeves immediately. He approached my daughter at her workplace. He's escalating. We'll bring him in for questioning again, she said. But Mr. Lancaster, until he actually commits a violent act, our hands are tied. Restraining orders are pieces of paper. They don't stop determined people. Then what am I supposed to do? Wait until he hurts one of my kids. Document everything. Keep your children away from isolated situations. Consider hiring private security if you're really concerned. I hung up, furious at the system's impotence. Then I made a decision that probably wasn't smart, but felt necessary. I drove to Keith's apartment, an address I'd gotten from the police report. It was in a rundown complex on the east side of Bridgeport. I knocked on his door just after 6 in the evening. Keith answered, surprised to see me. He was younger than I expected, maybe 47, with the kind of boyish looks that probably charmed women easily. Right now, those looks were marred by several days of stubble and bloodshot eyes. Gregory Lancaster, he said, smirking. The cuckold himself. I kept my voice level controlled. You're going to stop contacting my family. All of them. My wife, my children, everyone. Or what? You'll call the cops? Already tried that. Didn't work out so well for you, did it? Or I'll make your life very difficult. I stepped closer, letting him see I wasn't backing down. I've spent 30 years building business relationships in this community. I know people, judges, police chiefs, business owners. You keep harassing my family, and I'll make sure you can't get a job within 50 miles of here. You threatening me, old man? I'm promising you. Stay away from my family, or you'll regret it. Keith laughed. Your wife owes me. She promised me things, made plans with me, then threw me away like garbage when you found out. I'm not going anywhere until I get what I'm owed. You already got $350,000. That's more than most people see in a lifetime. That was for the business. This is about respect. His voice turned hard. Monica made a fool of me. She doesn't get to just walk away. I saw then what Monica had gotten involved with. Not a romantic affair, but a calculated predator who'd targeted a vulnerable woman and bled her dry. And now that the money was gone, he wanted revenge. This isn't about money or respect, I said quietly. It's about control. You can't stand that she chose her family over you. She didn't choose anything. You froze her out of the money. Otherwise, she'd still be with me. The delusion in his voice was almost sad. Stay away from my family, Keith. This is your only warning. I turned to leave, and he called after me. Tell Monica she can't hide behind you forever. Tell her I'm not done with her. Not by a long shot. I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from rage. This man had taken our money, destroyed our family's peace, and now he was actively terrorizing us. That night, I installed security cameras around our house, updated all our locks, made sure Monica, Stephanie, and Ethan all had pepper spray. I felt like I was preparing for war in my own hometown. Howard came over when he saw me installing the cameras. It's that bad. He's not stopping. And the police can't do anything until he actually hurts someone. Howard nodded grimly. Had a buddy once, dealt with something similar. Restraining orders don't stop crazy, Greg. Only thing that stops crazy is consequences. What kind of consequences? The legal kind, if you can manage it. Or the kind where the man realizes he's in over his head and backs off. He looked at the cameras I was installing. You might also want to talk to Pete Sullivan down at the courthouse. He handles security for some of the high-profile divorce cases. Good man. Knows how to keep families safe. I called Pete that evening. By morning, I had a security consultant coming to assess our situation and a plan to keep my family safe, while Keith Hammond decided whether destroying us was worth the consequences he'd face. Because one way or another, this was ending. I protected my family for 39 years. I wasn't stopping now. The stress finally caught up with me 3 weeks after Keith's harassment began. I was in my office, reviewing a client's itinerary, when the chest pain started. Not dramatic at first, just a tightness that made breathing difficult. Then it felt like someone was squeezing my heart in a vice. I managed to dial 911 before collapsing behind my desk. The paramedics found me 20 minutes later. By then, the pain had spread down my left arm, and the world had narrowed to a pinpoint of light surrounded by darkness. They loaded me into the ambulance, sirens wailing, while my office manager called Monica. At Bridgeport Hospital, Dr. Alan Fisher told me I'd had a moderate heart attack. The stress you've been under, Mr. Lancaster, combined with your age and the situation with your family, it's a perfect storm for cardiac events. How bad? I managed to ask. Bad enough that another one could kill you. You need to eliminate stress from your life immediately. No work for at least 8 weeks. No confrontations. Complete rest. Monica arrived at the hospital looking terrified. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd married 39 years ago, not the stranger who betrayed me. She grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. Greg, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Not now, I whispered, too tired to fight. Over the next week in the hospital, I had time to think. Really think. About Howard's story of his wife Eleanor coming back sick and dying alone. About 39 years of marriage reduced to legal documents and heart attacks. About whether revenge was worth dying for. Connor visited every day. Stephanie came twice, bringing flowers and sitting in silence beside my bed. Even Ethan drove down from home, looking guilty and scared. "Dad, I can't lose you," he said quietly. "You're the only parent I've left who hasn't completely let me down." Those words hit harder than the heart attack. On my 5th day in the hospital, Monica came in with her briefcase. She looked thinner, older, like she'd aged 5 years in 3 weeks. "I need to tell you something," she said, sitting in the chair beside my bed. "Something I should have told you from the beginning." I waited, too exhausted to prompt her. The affair with Keith, it wasn't about him. It wasn't even about being unhappy with you. She twisted her hands together. 2 years ago, I went to a therapist. She diagnosed me with depression, anxiety about aging, about becoming irrelevant. I was terrified of turning 60, of being invisible. "So you had an affair?" "So, I made a series of terrible decisions, trying to feel young and wanted again. Keith made me feel special, like I mattered. And when he said he needed money, helping him made me feel useful." Tears ran down her face. "I know how pathetic that sounds. I destroyed everything we built because I was afraid of getting old. You could have talked to me. I know. But I was ashamed. And then it spiraled out of control. By the time I realized how much damage I was doing, I was in too deep to stop." She pulled out a folder from her briefcase. "I talked to my attorney yesterday. I'm signing over my claim to everything. The house, your business, the retirement accounts that are left. All of it goes to you." "Monica, let me finish. I'm also checking myself into an inpatient mental health facility. 3 months minimum. I need help, Greg. Real help. I can't be trusted around money or decisions right now." She set the papers on my bedside table. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you not to die hating me." Before I could respond, my heart monitor started beeping urgently. Dr. Fisher rushed in with nurses. The last thing I saw before they sedated me was Monica being ushered out, her face pale with fear. 14 months later, I stood in my backyard watching spring arrive in Connecticut. The garden Monica had planted years ago was blooming again, tended by the landscaping service I'd hired. The security cameras Howard had helped install were still there, though Keith Hammond was no longer a threat. He'd been arrested for violating his restraining order one too many times and sentenced to 8 months in jail. Last I heard, he'd moved to Florida after his release. Good riddance. My business had survived, barely. I'd sold it 6 months ago to a younger couple who'd worked for me for years. The sale gave me enough to pay off the second mortgage and put some money back into retirement accounts. Not the $350,000 Monica had stolen, but enough to survive on. Ethan had returned to college on a combination of loans and a part-time job. Not ideal, but he was finishing his degree. That mattered. Stephanie had reconciled with her fiancé. They were getting married next month, a small ceremony in our backyard. She'd asked me to walk her down the aisle. She hadn't invited her mother yet, but I knew she was considering it. Connor called weekly, checking on me. Our relationship had strengthened through the crisis, and for that I was grateful. My phone rang. Monica's number. I still hesitated before answering, even after all this time. "Hi, Greg." Her voice was different now, steadier, more grounded. The therapy and medication had helped. "Monica, how are you?" "Good. Really good, actually. I got promoted at work. They kept me on after everything, which I'm grateful for." She paused. "I heard about Stephanie's wedding. I know I probably don't deserve to be there, but she's thinking about inviting you," I said. "She hasn't decided yet. That's more than I deserve." Silence stretched between us. Then, "Greg, could we maybe have coffee this week? Just to talk." It was the 4th time she'd asked in the past 3 months. The first 3 times, I'd said no. But this time, something in me shifted. Wednesday afternoon. The coffee shop on Main Street. "Really?" The hope in her voice was painful to hear. "Don't read too much into it, Monica. It's just coffee." "I know. Thank you." I hung up and called Howard. The old man answered on the second ring. "You're really doing this?" he asked when I told him. "I don't know yet. I'm just having coffee with her. You know what I think about second chances." "I do. But Howard, I've been alone for 14 months. The kids are building their own lives. And every time I think about growing old by myself, angry and bitter, I think about your Eleanor." "Eleanor came back too late," Howard said quietly. "But Monica, she's been working on herself. I've seen the change in her at church, at community events. She's different than she was." "Different enough?" That's for you to decide, son. Just remember, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward despite the past. Wednesday came. I arrived at the coffee shop 5 minutes early, nervous as a teenager on a first date. Monica walked in right on time, looking healthier than she had in years. She'd lost weight, cut her hair shorter, wore less makeup. She looked like herself again, not the woman who'd been trying to recapture her youth. We talked for 2 hours. About her therapy, about the medications that helped with her anxiety and depression, about the financial counseling she'd completed, about how she'd been attending meetings for people with spending addictions. I can't undo what I did, she said finally. I destroyed 39 years of trust in 8 months of selfishness. I don't expect you to forgive me. But Greg, I want you to know I'm different now. The work I've done, it's real. I can see that, I admitted. Could we maybe do this again? Just coffee, just talking. I thought about it. About lonely evenings in a too-quiet house. About 39 years of shared history that couldn't just be erased. About Howard's regret over choosing pride over compassion. Maybe, I said. Let's take it slow. Her smile was small but genuine. Slow is good. Slow means there's still a possibility. I drove home that afternoon, not knowing what the future held. Whether Monica and I could rebuild something from the ashes of our marriage was uncertain. Whether I could ever fully trust her again was questionable. But I knew one thing. I was 63 years old, and I'd rather spend my remaining years trying to heal than letting bitterness consume what was left. That evening, sitting on my back porch, I called Stephanie. Dad, everything okay? Yeah, honey. Listen, about your mother and the wedding. I've been thinking about it, she interrupted. She's been really trying. I can see the change. And you know what? Life's too short to hold grudges forever. So you're going to invite her? I'm going to invite her. On one condition, you're okay with it. I looked at the garden Monica had planted, now blooming with new life after a long winter. I'm okay with it, Steph. We all deserve a chance to start over.